Welcome to the first episode of the Batteries Included Electric Car Buying Conundrum, where we try to find the right electric vehicle to match the needs, budgets, and desires of real people. I'm Dominic Ioni, host of the Drive Electric with Dominic YouTube channel. I am joined today by my Batteries Included colleagues, Tom Logney, senior editor at Inside EVs and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge, and Kyle Connor from the infamous Out of Spec Studios. We put out a call during our regular Batteries Included podcast show last Friday, asking for people to send us their personal electric vehicle buying conundrums, and we received a number of responses. In this episode, we're going to try to tackle the first couple. So if you're facing your own EV buying conundrum, drop us a note at batteriesincludedpodcast@gmail.com with Find My EV in the subject line and tell us about your situation, your needs, wants, and budget, and we'll see about featuring your situation on an upcoming episode. All right, so let's kick this off with our first assignment. Viewer Steven sent us this. My wife's ICE car was just totaled, and we would love to be a full EV family. I drive a 2019 Tesla Model 3 long range. My entire family can fit in it, but it is very uncomfortable. Buckle to buckle in the middle seat of the rear is only 10 inches, which is tight for my 10-year-old. We have 3 kids, 10 years old, 6 years old, and 4 years old. The 4-year-old is in a full car seat. I believe that's Diana brand, smallest width available. And the 6-year-old is in a booster seat, which is 17 inches across. So we need a people mover for my wife. We also need to fit the family of 5 when we're all out and about or on vacation. We're entirely open to a used EV, but we don't really need to spend more than $60,000, less if possible. Is a Model X with a third row our best option? We've looked at used Lightnings, large rear bench would probably be enough room. We just don't know what to do with the car seat situation. So there you have it. So right off the bat, the growing family.
Well, also, I think we should also make it clear we might branch this out into charger advice or other EV tangent buying advice as well. It doesn't have to be necessarily car related. So if you have a question about buying anything EV related, I mean, Tom's the charger guy. We should tap into that knowledge.
Yes.
And we're going to refine this. My first thoughts after listening to reading some of the comments was, I need more information to be more helpful. Like, where do you live? There's different areas of the country that has better infrastructure, public charging infrastructure. Do you go on frequent road trips and stuff like that? So we'll refine this as we go along. But for now, we're going to do the best we can with the limited knowledge we have about everyone's unique situation that we address.
And maybe we should have people come up on the show as well. Maybe fill us in as we go along. We'll see how that.
We'll see how this is going to evolve. But we want to be here to help you guys figure out this whole electric thing. What kind of car do you need? What kind of charger do you need? All that stuff. And that's part of the reason why we went off and did the Batteries Included podcast on our own, because we could do creative stuff like this, and we want to be there to help the listeners navigate through this transition from ICE to EV.
And what's better than spending somebody else's money on buying a car?
That's the easy part. It's easy to buy, hard to sell.
All right. So let's start off on this first one. And I'm going to jump out really quick. It caught my eye that somebody's cross-shopping a Tesla Model X with a Lightning.
Right.
And I love that. So you're open to anything if you're going to consider that wide a range of vehicles. And as you guys know, I own a Lightning. One of the things I love about it is that back seat. It's enormous. It's like my living room. And I don't know, it was about 2 months ago when I was at a DC fast charger, I think East Brunswick, New Jersey, Electrify America. And a guy pulled in and he had a Lightning and we were next to each other and he had 2 child seats in the back. And he was raving about how it's fantastic and how it's got so much room just to get the kids in and out. You're not like squeezing to get the child seat out and everything. And it worked. 2 child seats worked great for him. I don't know. Are you a pickup truck kind of guy? Would this be your first pickup truck? You'll love the utility of having a pickup truck. It's just, even if you don't necessarily need it to do pickup truck type things, the inside of the cab is so big that it's like a car. And now you have the added bonus of that big area in the back. So that's, I like the fact that you're considering a Lightning. I did a quick little research. I actually found a Lightning out there now that's a Lariat extended range, loaded, towing package, and everything for 61,000,
Wow.
61,000 and change. Which, to me, I mean, I paid over 80,000 for that same truck, so 20,000 less. A year later,
How many miles?
if you could snag a loaded Lariat in the low 60s, that's really something to consider. I didn't see any. I was really looking for XLTs because I knew that trim was going to be a little bit less expensive, but there's not a lot of XLTs out there. I think when Ford started making these, they were pushing out the Platinums and the Lariats for the most part in the beginning. There's some Pros and XLTs out there, but the used ones that are coming on the market now are mostly Lariat trim and Platinums, which are going to be your higher priced items. But I mean, you can't go wrong with a Model X, but I'm going to stick with the home team and say, if you can get a Lightning in the low 60s, a extended range loaded Lariat like that, it's worth considering.
How many miles are on that one that you're talking about?
16,000.
That's pretty sweet. That's like a pretty much brand new.
It's what I have on mine now, 16 and change. So
just looking at like a cars.com, which we're not sponsored by or affiliated with, but that's just a great place to look for vehicles because you can look all across the country at one time. It doesn't matter how far away you are from the vehicle. I'm seeing a lot of Ford F-150 Pros really seem to dominate like the low end. So just below 50,000, so 48,000 up to 52 or so. There's a bunch of Ford F-150 Pros on here, which is like the commercial version of the truck, I guess.
Well, let me interject on this. So it's the commercial version, but they did sell them to retail customers, but you couldn't get the extended range battery. So I'm guessing most of those have standard range battery. That might not be enough for a lot of people range wise, depending where you live, what your use case is. So that's something to make sure if you are shopping a Lightning, make sure you get the battery that works for you.
That's a good point. And then moving up to the next level around the XLTs, the F-150 XLTs, I'm seeing some in the 52,000 range, like starting that, which is pretty good. But again, I guess look at the battery.
You have to check the battery. If that's an extended range for 52, grab it quickly. I'm guessing
there's a few of them on here because that's below MSRP.
Yeah, that's a good deal. That's a good deal.
That one's 240 miles of range. I'm not sure if they all
No,
say
that 240 would be standard range battery.
Right.
You got to have the one that says 320 if they're listing EPA range on it.
Right.
So I'm going to throw a curveball out there. I think F-150 Lightning, huge rear seat, big leg room. I was actually going to suggest it, but since you guys did, totally agree. Great truck, great range, already committed to North American charging standards. So we know you're going to be able to road trip that thing with ease. Absolutely fantastic. Two other options come to mind. They already have a Tesla. And having multiple Teslas is awesome because you use the same app for your key, for everything, right there in your phone, same connectors, same charging experience, and it's just awesome. And man, can you pick up, first of all, a new Model X is out of their price range. We get $12,500 off one in Colorado. So that's where it's always great to know locations, of course. That would put them in the high 60 range for a brand new X. They could turn around and sell that car if we were able to bring up cars.com. I don't know. I can't present everything right now. But basically, if we were able to pull one up, you can sell one. The cheapest new Model X is 75 grand right now. And your purchasing cost, even after taxes, would be way more. Now, of course, Tesla just lowered the price of the new ones, and the used market hasn't had time to absorb this yet. But that would be fantastic. Now, if truly it's a $60,000 budget, you can go for Model X's all the way down into the low $40,000 range and still be okay. You can get a 100 kilowatt hour Model X 100D for, high 40s, low 50s for a low mileage example, something like that. This is crazy. A P90D for 38 grand. Never did I think I'd see the day. Yeah, it could be. You always, the thing with any of these, you just have to do some research, make sure it's a clean car, take a paint meter to it. We'll have some videos on Auto Spec Guide on how to look at used cars and stuff like that. So that's all coming. But, I would go for big battery because the 70Ds, 75Ds, excuse me, the 60Ds all charge like crap. The 90Ds have a kilowatt hour charge counter in them where they derate DC charging. The 100 kilowatt hour packs are much better. So, Dominic, if you scroll up on the left, you'll be able to select long range or 100D, something like that. Under 50,000 miles is probably what I'd recommend. And I would look at long range and long range plus down there as well. Two fantastic options, reasonable charging, reasonable price. And, we're looking at 45 grand gets you a real nice example. That's going to have, at that point, the cost difference between a 6-seat and a 7-seat or a 5-seat, now you're just onto individual vehicles because that doesn't really transfer down to this low in the market. So we're looking at, find yourself a 6-seat Model X or 7-seat Model X, plenty of room for the family. You're already used to the Tesla experience. That's what I would recommend. But actually, just before we started the show, Tom came up with a cool idea. So I'd like to let him share that because it's a wild card. It can't happen quickly, and they just totaled their car, but it almost would be kind of cool, and it will support NACS.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you can wait a little bit, the Kia EV9 is a really good option, in my opinion. And you're talking new, right? You're not dipping into the used market. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to start deliveries on that, though. So that could be a problem for you. But at the starting price that they're doing, it's right around 60, right? I think it's like 59.9 plus delivery or whatever. So, if you can get a base model and you can get one from a dealer that isn't going to gouge it up, which I think is going to be a problem, but you never know. You might be able to get a dealer somewhere to lock in at MSRP. You can have a brand new Kia EV9 for, in the low 60s. And that's pretty good. I mean, I think that's a really good option, the EV9. And, I know Kyle agreed with me because as soon as we started talking about it, we were both like, oh yeah, definitely. That's going to be really good. I can't wait to see these in the wild and get a chance to drive one extensively. But, that's an option for you there. Maybe you reach out to your local Kia dealer and ask them when are these things are going to be coming in, and what are you going to be selling them for?
Yeah, I think it's still fairly unrealistic with them needing a car now. And honestly, finding Teslas, I usually recommend not to get it directly from Tesla unless you want some sort of extended warranty because they tend to pull the market up a little bit.
Right.
But just so much car for the money. Again, 2018 Model X 100D, 29,000 miles right there. Thing's 52 grand. It's just ready to rock and roll. You're used to the Tesla thing. I think that's going to be the easiest option. You can tow with it. It's definitely a proven platform in terms of resale value. Model X's have always held their value so much better than the rest of the Tesla lineup because there's just been so much fewer of them. And, in terms of out of warranty expenses on a used car and things like that, Model X is a known vehicle with plenty of experts, third-party experts working on them. And that would be my recommendation if you don't want a truck. Although I think the Lightning's the cooler option here personally.
Yeah, I think I lean more Lightning than Model X actually, just because I feel like the Model X has had a lot of complaints just about fit and finish and doors not working, and just all the usual litany of small irritations with Tesla Model X. Front suspension, I believe, is another one, or the not suspension, but the half shafts, your drive axles.
Yep.
There's always those things to look at. And I guess, but I pulled up the Tesla inventory site so you could have that as like a guide sort of to look at, because they generally have like lower mileage examples up there. And these are just in my area. You have to really put your own zip code in there and kind of sort your area first, I guess. But this will give you a general outline guide of what you can expect to find out there, what you should, not pay more than that amount. You should definitely.
Well, and even just looking at these numbers right here, like you would be dumb to get these cars when you can go, to the general used market, pay $10,000 less for an equivalently spec'd car.
Right.
Like I don't see any reason to go here to get Tesla. Yeah, you get a small warranty on it, but like you can also get a warranty if you buy the car from CarMax or something like that. So you're buying used. It's going to be a little bit of a risk. Probably if you're nitpicky, a Model X is not the car for you, as you mentioned, Dominic, because little creaks, little rattles, things like that are very common in the early ones. That's
Right.
where almost it makes sense to like just spend it a little bit more, get a new X, get all the credits in it that they're qualified for, which I don't know their tax situation, but Like, for example, my dad has an X on order with 0 options because it just qualifies for the federal tax credit. And that's just a deal right now. It's such a deal.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. The problem with what this family is looking for right now is there's just not a whole lot of 3-row SUVs. Is kind of which where they would slot, or minivans. Like if we were in Europe, I would love to recommend the Zeekr. Was it 009? That's
The minivan one.
their outrageous minivan. I mean, it's probably above the 60,000 mark.
What are EQE SUVs or EQS SUVs going for on the used market?
That is a good question.
I'm going to pull that.
Probably not a lot of
really
them
quick.
used at this point.
I think there are. So let me just look here. I'm going to go E-Class. That will include all of the EQ models as well. And what I'm going to do is choose body style SUV. Oh, wait, it doesn't really let me do that. Maybe I have to choose EQS 450. Well, 580 would be all-wheel drive.
They have every EQS EUV.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to find these, but if I go EQS SUV, there we go, and I go lowest price. Let's see what we got here. 76 grand for a 580. That's like the top one.
Right.
Wow, they are just tanking.
Yeah.
Insane. And you can get a 450 plus SUV for 70 grand all day. Still slightly out of budget, but that's going to have a lot of room.
Yeah, I can't find the EQS SUV on.
You got it right there.
I mean, I have a couple. I have EQS.
Yeah, but all you do is go body style SUV.
Oh, okay.
So just scroll down a bit more and it'll show.
Right.
But yeah, either way, I think that's going to be slightly out of budget. But amazing that car is well over 100 grand, and already we're seeing them significantly less expensive.
Well, that's just that one. Maybe there's something going on with that one.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
look at the rest of them are over 90, 96,000, 97,000. And then you got that 79. One at 76,000. There might be
the price lowest to highest.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something going on with that top one there, guys. Yeah. There's something not right.
Generally, when you're looking at these sites and you see like a really low price, you want to dive in and make sure that the title is not a salvage title, that it hasn't been crashed or whatever. Because really, for most people, I think you should avoid those cars. There's usually plenty of cars out there. Just avoid those, real. If you have a lot of money and don't mind, the risk of a salvage title or something, maybe go for it, I guess, but not your typical family, I think.
Totally agree. And I'm just looking here at EQE SUVs are 66, 65, 65, bunch of them in that mid 60 range.
I'm just not sure about the width of the EQE because it's slightly smaller, right?
But it's going to be a relatively big, again, SUV in a sense. So
yeah, but they want 3 kids in the back. I don't know if
I think you need 3
seats,
rows,
booster
honestly.
seats.
Yeah,
I think the Model X is a much better choice, and I think the Lightning is wide enough where you can make it work. And R1S would be cool, but again, way out of budget. So yeah, I think Lightning if you want a truck, Model X if you want an SUV. Those seem to be the 2 options today that make sense. I just wanted to throw this Mercedes wild card out there because these are crazy good deals right here. EQE for 60 grand, 52 grand at a Mercedes dealer right there, that top one. So maybe nothing super sketchy going on.
And low miles.
1,000 miles. Jeez.
Yeah, these are 57 miles. I mean, these are great, like mileage wise, these are awesome.
Yeah.
Because generally, personally, I like looking at stuff below 15,000, which is like a year's worth of driving, basically. Yeah. So anything below that is, it's basically like a brand new car.
Yeah, crazy. Certainly.
So yeah,
let's move on to the next one.
The market's so tricky here because we really want 3-row EVs, and like the Kia EV9 is super promising coming up, and the Hyundai 7, I believe, is also going to be that same size. And but those aren't here yet. The VinFast VF9, which personally we can't recommend VinFast at this point because they haven't proven that they're worth recommending yet. The initial reviews are just not great, and so I can't recommend them at this point. So
Yeah,
And
once
I don't know
they
what.
prove their reliability and their
Sure.
build quality, then sure, I have no problem recommending
Oh yeah.
VinFast. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like you mentioned, it's just too early, and they need a car today. So the car today would be Lightning or Model X. You could go 3-row Model Y, but pretty tight.
Right. Yeah. No, 3-row Model Y. That third row in the Model Y is just not really 4 and 6. Maybe but you have the car seats. I'm not sure. I've never seen people deal with car seats in that
And the
rear
kids
row.
aren't getting any younger, Dom. They're just getting to get bigger, and then
Right.
they won't fit back there. So
And honestly,
I wouldn't do a 3-row Model Y personally.
yeah, the
All right.
Model X doors make getting car seats in and out so much easier anyway. I mean,
There's
it's
that. That's
just
true.
so much access room with the doors that get out of the way. And like, yeah, maybe they're a little crunchy, but I think if you go for the newest Model X that you can afford,
Mhm.
the reliability of those doors have gotten way better than the super
Oh
early
yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
I think he was barking up the right tree. He was looking at Model X and Lightning, and
Mhm.
for their needs, I think you were spot on with what you were thinking. So maybe just drill down on those two and figure out what works best for you.
All right. So let's take a look at another email we got from a reader, Dennis. He says, "Hi guys. On your last podcast, you commented that you were looking for ideas for a used EVs discussion. I'm looking at a 2019 Audi e-trons and 2017-2018 Tesla Model S 100Ds. I'm looking for a car that is quiet, comfortable, and easy to road trip. Let's assume Audi goes with NACS in the future. What is a better car for what I am looking for? Thanks for your help, Dennis. P.S. I drive a 2014 BMW i3 Rex. That's a range extender. Thanks in part to the reviews from Kyle and Tom. It's a great runabout." So thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Tom.
And
Nice to know
he's right. It's a great runabout. Kyle and I loved our BMW i3s. I can't say enough about it. It was a car ahead of its time. I still, when I see that thing, those things rolling down the roads, it still looks like it came from the future. And it's 10 years old. That car launched 10 years ago in November of 2013 in Europe. It came to the US in the spring of 2014, but it's 10 years old and it still looks more futuristic than just about any other car on the road. So BMW did a good job with that. I mean, there were some shortcomings, obviously, super expensive, didn't have good range. But I mean, the Rex kind of wiped that out as long as you didn't have to drive where Kyle lives and go over overpasses. But I still say, if you knew how to drive it, if you understood how it worked, you can get anywhere with that. You could drive it to not overtax the motor, unless you were driving it up Pikes Peak. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
can
use the right tool
it.
for the right job.
You can code that motor
driven it.
too.
Yeah, I've driven it across the country, and
If
we
you
had
coded
ours.
it,
Yeah, we coded it so the range extender would come on at 70%, like the Euro cars were tuned
Yeah.
to do. And so we just had weird regulations for the car in the US, but you could unlock all the Euro tuning and have full access to the car.
Yeah. And those not to get on this subject too long, but those were BMW BMW put those on there because they wanted the car to qualify for the California BevX category. And basically they got more money. BMW got more like tax credits for it. They didn't have to do that. They could have said, we're going to put the customers first and have a good ownership experience, but they didn't. They put the tax credits first, and customers weren't happy about that. They got sued. There was a class action lawsuit.
Did not know that
about that. Yeah, I was contacted.
It was a quick fix. You just plugged in a USB thing, and boom, the car was unlocked.
You could code the car, and then you could do whatever you want with it. But so anyway, let's get on to his issue. But thumbs up on the BMW.
Yeah. So road tripping, Audi for road tripping, Audi e-tron. So right now we're looking at a situation where the landscape, the fast charging landscape for road trips is kind of divided between North American Charging Standard from Tesla and CCS for everybody else. But those worlds are all colliding next year, where most of the brands have adopted the NACS standard, so they'll be able to charge on the Tesla network, which is by far the best network for charging if you want reliability, and just they're everywhere pretty much. Just about that you want them. So
he did say assume Audi is going to join, so we have to go under his assumption.
Right.
We don't. They haven't joined yet, but
no,
we're gonna.
They haven't joined.
But he said let's assume that. So let's go under that premise.
So everybody else
I want to hear Kyle's discussion because Kyle thinks Kyle has said multiple times, the Audi e-tron is actually a really good road tripper because it rips charging wise if you can get charging equipment that works. Let's say you can access the Tesla supercharger network, Kyle. Now, how do you feel about that e-tron as far as road tripping?
Well, I actually own both of the cars that he's talking about. I own a Model S and I own an e-tron. And 100% of the time, if the e-tron would interface with the superchargers, that's what I'm getting in because it is a bank vault. Massaging seats are great. It's crazy inefficient, but who cares? Because it just sits at 150 kilowatts to 80%. Best charging curve in the business. You literally can have someone screaming at you outside the car. You don't know. I mean, it is such a bank vault in there, especially if you spec up for the Prestige, which I always highly recommend you do because you get extra glazing on the glass, better sound system, better materials, all that kind of stuff. We love our e-tron. It's absolutely awesome. And they are so freaking cheap. You can get Prestige models for mid $30,000 range. There was one just down there. If you scroll slightly more, Dominic, a Prestige for $29,500. That's insane. So just absolutely awesome to see all of this. The Model S from 2017 and 2018 are extremely reliable. This is about the time when they fixed the motor coolant issue, so you're not going to have a thing. The e-tron actually does have some motor coolant issues as they age. So out of warranty Audi versus out of warranty Tesla, much more support on the Tesla side. That is a car that I would not worry about breaking because it's a known thing. Everyone's going to fix it. I always think about, okay, what happens when our e-tron breaks? Because if I bring it to the Audi dealer, yeah, they'll fix it, but it's going to be crazy expensive. And so, if it's something that you're just going to dump the miles on, the Tesla is going to be the better option, I think, in terms of maintenance and reliability. However, the e-tron is going to be a much better overall ownership experience with a quieter, more comfortable car. So if you either get an e-tron that's under warranty or you're just comfortable with this motor issue and you're budgeting a few grand if it were to explode or something crazy were to happen, then you're totally cool to go Audi. And it's going to be a much better road tripper. I mean, truly, the Audi is going to be a much better charging curve than that 100D Model S. Those 100 kilowatt hour packs just don't charge that fast up top. They rip down low, but just die by the time you hit 20-25%. You're down under 150 kilowatts in those things. It's nowhere like the new Model S charging curve. So yeah, my recommendation is honestly go Audi. You're going to love it. If you're a car guy, it's awesome. That's assuming they'll use superchargers. If we think about it in the context of today, if it's your only car, then you have to go Tesla because even just now, Colton was just texting me. He has an ID4. He took it up to Aspen, which isn't far from here in Fort Collins. And he's like, I ran into 3 dead EA chargers lines. There was only 1 of 4 chargers working in Glenwood Springs. He's like, it's been a disaster. He's going to EVgo to charge because he doesn't even want the free charging with his ID4. He just wants to be able to charge. And he's like, I'm just going to trade this ID4 in for a Model Y. And that is not because the Model Y he thinks is a better car. The charging infrastructure is so frustrating today that I would not bank on Audi switching to NACS. I hope they do, but Volkswagen Group is going to be the last ones to do it if they switch, which I do think they will switch. But again, I'm not sure we can bank on that fact for a expensive buying decision like this.
Man, Colton wants to lose his VW ID4. But I think it's going to be pretty bad because he spent some time and effort on that thing to make it look like pretty sweet, right? He's got.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was just speaking of frustration because it's not really his road trip car, but he's really just saying I will never take this car on a road trip. He's like, we are just going to take he has 2 Teslas, his Teslas on a trip. Because even this quick trip to the mountains really frustrated him, and he's an EV enthusiast.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. So there's some great prices here. Lowest miles, like Premium Plus down to 30,000 miles for $32,000.
And at this point, just get the Prestige for 32, right? With slightly less mileage. So just don't even consider a Premium Plus. Go Prestige when the prices are this
close. Yeah.
I wonder if we can just take out all Prestige. Oh, here we go. Just the Prestige.
There we go.
There we go.
That's what I would do. Crazy.
And maybe
That's fantastic.
maybe put it by lowest
Such a good
miles.
car. It's such a good price. It's such a package. And honestly, I'm going to agree with Kyle and say go. I think you go e-tron over the Model S for, it sounds like, for your needs. You can't, it's almost being lazy saying buy the Tesla, in my opinion, because Teslas are so good and they road trip so well. And it's like an easy decision. You have to put more thought into deciding like what's going to work best for me. And I just think the overall experience of the Audi, if you are going to say, and you said in your email, let's assume that this is next, that Audi joins next. So now you have access to superchargers. This would be my choice. Probably every day of the week. I would take the e-tron over
some of
Model
these
S.
super low mileage ones that you're looking at, Dom.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
was in a parking garage where they keep the press cars in LA, and they must have had 100 e-trons in there.
Okay.
Just totally parked. They were all like the launch cars from Audi, and they were on failed air suspension and covered in dirt and like obviously hadn't been charged in 2 years or anything. So maybe some of those like super low mileage ones, just make sure the battery's okay on them. Yes, it's under
Sure.
warranty, but we don't know if they sat at 100 or sat at 0, but it was one of those two. I'll tell you that much.
And whatever EV you buy, and this is for everybody, make sure you do check the battery. And, the best way to do it is to get a battery state of health report. That might be hard to get, because if it's at a dealership, some dealerships can pull it for you. A lot of times they won't. But what I would do personally is make sure it gets charged to 100% and see what the estimated range is. Now, I know you can't live and die by the estimated range, but that will give you an idea of how much, estimated range the vehicle has. And how about recurrent? Kyle, can they put in the VIN and get a recurrent battery report? Is that not available yet? I know that's eventually what Recurrent wants to do.
Yeah, but it requires driving the car and having a module hooked up still. It's not like they can just pull it out of thin air. And also the other thing is with cars like the e-tron, they're guessometer based ranges. So you can have two cars with the same state of health at 100%, but driven differently. Like if one had just been driven around the dealer lot really slow, it might only show 150 miles, even though it could, match highway range. So yeah, I totally agree, Tom. It's a great way to say like, okay, what does it do? But also you don't want to leave it at 100% state of charge that long.
No.
Dominic,
No,
you're
you
clicking
don't.
on all the ugliest colors. What are you doing?
Well, some people do like a red car.
No
I don't
one likes a
necessarily,
red e-tron.
but right. But this one has 22,500 miles on it, so I thought that was a pretty good mileage for 33,000. It's got almost $1,000 price drop on there.
Yeah, but it's got the ugly wheels. See, like those are much nicer wheels.
And it's also bright red.
Oh, this 2019, that early one is on the first edition wheels. Let's see if it has orange calipers. Yep. Some of these actually had night vision, which is super cool. The really early cars. Yeah. See the orange calipers. So this is a first edition car.
Okay.
Looks freaking awesome and probably has night vision as well.
Night vision. I'm wondering if
But
that
some
would
of these
be
really early
E-specs.
ones, a lot of them were lemon cars. Audi had a lot of software problems when this car first came out. And that thankfully has since all been solved with software updates. But yeah, if you ever get a 2019 e-tron, bring it to your whatever dealer. Just make sure you have every new software update, the one that unlocks more battery capacity and all that stuff. Just make sure you have all that. Then the cars are pretty generally fine. But when these cars launched, typical for Volkswagen Group, so many of them were bought back because of glitches, and it never affected the long-term performance of the car. But at the time, it was pretty brutal.
Right, it was pretty frustrating, but it just put all these cars out there back into the used car fleet that we can all pick up now. We're just looking at some seats here, looking at some pictures. This is a pretty almost 50,000 miles, which when you think about mileage, so we should talk about that a little bit at some point. Because it's an important part of the calculation, like how many miles are in the car. Like I said, I like cars that are 15,000 and below. But Kyle, you talked me into buying a car earlier this year. I bought a Tesla Model 3 used, and it had 43,600 miles, I think, on it. And, a little out of my comfort zone, but, you said, what could go wrong? What could break on a Tesla Model 3, in my instance? There's not a whole lot, right?
Nothing on a Model 3 is catastrophic. For an Audi, when that car is 49,000 miles, there's others with like way less mileage for the same price. So I would just go with a different one. So, it just comes down to it. Mileage is always different because with an EV, especially unlike a combustion car, there's also wear and tear when the car is parked because batteries have natural aging. So what matters more to me is, was the battery not charged to 100% every day or not left dead for 3 years in a parking garage in LA? Like, what are these situations? And so doing a state of health check, generally kind of understanding how it was used makes sense. For example, the e-tron that we bought with 15 or 16,000 miles on it for 70 grand just a year and a half ago. So just insane how those things have tanked. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And so that car was great because it was a one owner leased car. Actually, when I got it, the NEMA 1450 receptacle that was in the front trunk was slightly burned, which like from me, I was like, oh, at least the car was AC charged a bunch. So I was like, not a huge amount of DC charging on it. So I felt pretty comfortable with buying our car. Now I'm not going to use that receptacle anywhere, but it was like a good indication to know how it was used before we got it.
Right. And I should say, I got to ride in your Audi e-tron not that long ago, last week. And, it's a pretty nice car. It's like you said, like a bank vault. You shut those doors. It just feels like really well put together. And
So
it's
quiet. Such a
nice and
quiet
quiet
cabin.
inside. Yeah, it rides great. Yeah, I really think you can't go wrong if the range is good for you, because it's a lower mile range, basically like 200 miles, basically, that you can look at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 225 at 70 miles an hour.
225. That's not so bad considering it's a huge battery, right?
It's 86 and a half usable.
Okay.
So it's not huge. Did 3 miles per kilowatt hour.
3 miles, and that's like 500 watt hours per mile.
No, 3 miles per kilowatt hour would be like 333 watt hour per mile, 350, something like that.
Okay, well that's what I was getting on my Model 3 at 75 miles an hour.
Going faster, yeah. And we were going 70 in the e-tron.
Right. Yeah, so that's actually not so bad efficiency wise. I thought it was worse than that.
It is when you drive it around town or when it gets cold. Like, don't expect a huge amount of range. Again, back to the really answering the question. Don't assume Audi's going to switch. The Model S will always hold its value better than Model 3 we've seen. Buy the newest Model S that you can afford. Honestly, if you can get one of the Palladium, the new refresh cars that have the yoke or whatever, they're so much better charging performance, much better software, much better cabin. Those are always going to be a step above the older Model S's. Yeah. So I would almost step up to something like that. And that would be my recommendation.
And more warranty, of course. I like the warranty idea. Peace of mind.
Yeah, warranty, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap it up about there. I don't know, Tom. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's it. I said, I think I think you're looking at the right vehicle. The e-tron, I think, is. I would personally take that over the Model S. Like I said, will you regret buying a Model S? No, if you find the right one, you won't regret it. It's a great all-around vehicle. But sounds like for me, the e-tron would also be a good vehicle for you. I think you can get more value for your dollar with the e-tron. As we showed you, some of these prices are down around $30,000. You're getting a fantastic vehicle for $30,000, $32,000, $33,000. The Prestige, fully loaded, every option. I think that's the way to go.
I think the market is just really undervaluing the Audi e-tron for whatever reason. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just the range number looks like small to people, so they think. But it charges like a monster. It's like it's so much better for road tripping than maybe it looks like if you just look at the numbers. Right. So yeah, let's call that an episode. Thank you very much for joining us. Tune in next week. We'll bring you another episode. And of course, our Friday show happens every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And we'll see you then. Ciao.